All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the lightweights. Rolly Romero blasts Devin Haney, says he's bottom of the food chain, irrelevant, and turns down an offer to fight. And this really, in my opinion, highlights a problem that we have in boxing, specifically in the lightweight division. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Before I get into the subject matter though, please make sure if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Also hit the like button, hit the share button. It goes a long way to growing the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Devin Haney, Rolly Romero, and the lightweight division. And Devin Haney making an offer to Rolly Romero to fight for his WBC championship belt, and Rolly Romero saying no. Specifically, Rolly Romero says, and this is, Rolly Romero is always bumping off at the lips, saying something that is a little bit crass. He says, look, the reason why I don't want to fight and not accepting this offer from Devin Haney is because Devin Haney is the bottom of the food chain and he is irrelevant. Now, if you take what he says as true, that tells you the big problem in boxing, and something that the WBC did to really mess over Devin Haney. Because right now, Devin Haney is, and without a doubt, becoming one of these highly avoided fighters that you see in boxing, where it doesn't even matter if they have a belt. People are still not trying to fight him. Other examples of them are like my guy Guillermo Rigondeaux, who's fighting this weekend against Casimiro. He was the WBA champion and at a point in time the WBO champion at 122 pounds. And in order to get a fight, it didn't matter what he did at that weight class. Nobody else in that weight class, whether they were Abner Mares or Leo Santa Cruz or Scott Quigg or Carl Frampton, nobody in there would ever want to fight him, even though he had that at a point in time he had the WBO, and I think he also had the WBA, but at the very least he had the WBA super, and they still didn't want to fight him. And that is because of the amount of danger that he possesses and the fact that there's so many belts available. Another guy is Demetrius Andrade right now at a WBO, where it doesn't seem like Charlo wants to fight him. Gennady Golovkin doesn't want to fight him. Demetrius Andrade does. Canelo Alvarez didn't want to fight him. Gennady Golovkin didn't want to fight him, and Charlo. Those are the three that were there at the time. Don't want to fight Demetrius Andrade because Demetrius Andrade is a very difficult, very awkward fighter, defensive-minded fighter. And the other guy that comes to mind when I think of Devin Haney is, ironically, Gary Russell Jr., who was at 126 pounds and is the WBC champion, but yet can't get anybody to really sit down and want to fight him. Right now, you got guys like, Leo Santa Cruz hasn't wanted to fight him. You have this new Kid Galahad, who is the IBF champion, and Eddie Hearn said something to the effect of, Gary Russell Jr. is awkward, but he hasn't fought since 1942. How about you just call up Gary Russell Jr. and make that fight? Those are the type of guys that Devin Haney is starting to turn into them. Like, for example, because he has at least three people who were mandatories in a position to fight for the belt that he has. Javier Fortuna, Ryan Garcia, and Jojo Diaz all have been in the position to be his mandatory and did not take fights with Devin Haney. And that shows you the problem that we have, again, the problem that we have in boxing with all of these belts that are there, and the WBC, specifically what they did to Devin Haney when they gave Vasily Lomachenko a franchise championship and elevated Devin Haney to I guess it would be called the WBC regular championship. It's just absolutely crazy how they do that, how they did Devin Haney, so where his belt, which is the traditional belt and is the belt that every other WBC champion holds, right, somehow makes him irrelevant, like it's some secondary or tertiary belt. So there's no real reason for them to fight Devin Haney for that belt, because the WBC itself said that belt for Devin Haney wasn't that Teofimo Lopez is the champion. But the belt that Teofimo Lopez has, he doesn't even have to defend. So I blame them for having put up that franchise championship on top of Devin. But for Rolly Romero to say that Devin Haney is irrelevant, that's kind of like, I think that is a good case of projection, where it's like you see something, you see something in yourself, but then you blame somebody else for what you actually see for yourself. Because if anybody falls into the category of bottom of the food chain and irrelevant, in my opinion, that would be Rolly Romero, because Rolly Romero is not a particularly good fighter, right? So he is somebody that does talk a good amount, but he's not somebody that anybody else is lining up to fight. I don't see there being a real chance of him getting a fight with Teofimo Lopez or him getting a fight with Ryan Garcia. This seems to me just to be another way for Rolly Romero to kind of try to put that air out there that he's a star. Like the way that he sits up there, for the last fight that he had, where he's on the podium and he's sitting there with a jacket with no shirt underneath it. He's got his sunglasses on and a championship belt that pretty much means nothing. Like and I'm still trying to get my head around who is it that is making Rolly Romero a star other than Rolly Romero's mouth and the truculent, insulting things that he says to other people. So, the fact that he's not taking the fight with Devin Haney, man, it's probably because because there's not a snowball's chance in HE double hockey sticks that Rolly Romero is going to be able to beat Devin Haney. You say what you want about Devin Haney being being irrelevant, or at least his belt being irrelevant. I personally think that he's just very, very avoided because he's the type of fighter that can make you look bad in a boxing ring. And his step-up fight against Jorge Linares, a lot of people want to focus on the fact that he got hit in that fight. But, it's boxing. You're going to get hit. He probably did get buzzed a little bit. But, you learn from it. He took that shot and he came and he withstood the shot and he won the fight. Now, I personally think that Devin Haney is a top-level fighter and could give any one of these guys a chance to do it. But a chance to, can give any of these guys, has a chance to beat any of these guys. But Devin Haney and his defensive style is one where it's not going to be particularly exciting. And if you have somebody that is, a come-forward fighter, that you maybe wind up spending the whole night looking for Devin Haney and looking in vain while he's pot-shotting you, because he definitely has that part of his game down. So I just wanted to talk about that. I thought it was kind of ironic for somebody that I think is probably the most irrelevant person in the whole mix of I know that's oxymoronic, the most irrelevant person in the mix, but of these lightweight champions. But it pretty much is Rolly Romero saying that about Devin Haney, who I think is just looking for an opportunity to get in with one of these other young fighters. And eventually he's going to get in and we'll see what he is about. More than likely, though, it's going to be at 140. I don't see it working out for him getting these guys in the ring at 135 because of the chance and the likelihood that he can beat them. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.